everyone. I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome to the Jaguar Football Podcast. Here we are, the end of July, the start of week 2 of camp. And with us today, as always, is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Bear. Coach Bear, very good to see you. Hope your summer is off to a great start.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carl. We're today started week 2 of camp. I just got off the field, so a little hot out there.
It has. The weather has been kind of brutal these last few
Right.
days, that's for sure. But it looks like relief is on the way, till end of the week. But, while we got you here, just wanted to get your thoughts about, how camp is going so far. You're just a week in. We understand that. But
Right.
wanted to get your thoughts about the camp.
Yeah, that's what we're only 6 days into this thing, and then that's kind of really where, as coaches, we know where we got to go, we know what point we got to get to, but we still recognize like, hey, we got to start small first, and it's really been good because the players have had great attitudes, great effort. They're working really hard. They're doing everything we're asking them to do, and it makes me feel better about us being able to get to kind of that end goal that we're trying to get to. So, that's all you can really ask for this early is guys are showing up, guys are working hard, and we know eventually that's going to pay off.
Well, one of your weekly emails was talking about the depth chart when it comes to varsity, and we threw in some AI here. So you have some AI generated
Yep.
Seckman football players. Wanted to get your thoughts on the depth chart, what it means. There's different levels from what I read from your
Right.
email, and just kind of explain to the group what those different teams are and the opportunity to perhaps increase their rank.
Yeah, we use depth charts to really, there's 186 people out on the field, right? And we use the depth chart to manage the players and manage the reps that they're getting. And then, it's also kind of how we track if you're first team, second team, third team, and help guys know where they stand and who you're competing against and who you have to be out working and out executing to get more playing time. So we call our blue team. That's that first group. Those are going to be considered our starters. After that, we call our gold team. That's your second string with a few third string guys kind of mixed in. They're not starting. The gold guys know, hey, right now I'm not doing enough to start, whether it's physically, whether it's the work, whether it's getting coach to trust me. But I'm going to be pushing, I'm going to be working, to get that spot or wait for my opportunity. And then we have our silver. And usually those are going to be our juniors, and sometimes seniors who are, they're here at practice every day. They're working hard. Their opportunities are going to be few and far in between on a Friday night, but they're a part of the team and they're helping us get better. And, those are the type of guys you're seeing that are trying to work and earn spots on our special teams, our kickoff, our kick return, our punt teams, things like that. So those are typically our third or fourth string guys. And then we use that also on the JV a little bit to mirror how we do. There's a JV blue and gold, just so guys kind of know, hey, this is where I stand and this is where I have to work. And when a guy's on blue team, that doesn't mean it's time to relax. Our blue team guys have to be the hardest working people on the field. You know, they have to show up every day. They know, hey, if I don't show up, or hey, I have an off day, I have a bad day, I have a bad attitude, coach is going to move a gold guy up right in my place. And the gold guys, I tell them, they got to be the hardest working person on the team. That they're pushing the blue player in their individual drills and some of our other group and team drills. They're pushing those guys, hey, showing coaches, hey, I deserve to be moved up here. Or, hey, when this guy slips up or this guy doesn't show up, coach, you can trust me. I'm going to go in and get it done. So, it's a great way to, like I said, keep things organized on the field and also, show guys where they stand. And, of course, if a guy's gold or a guy is silver, I don't expect them to be happy about where they're at. That disappointment is real. It's a real emotion, right? You're not starting, okay. Well, now what can your role be, right? Your role now on this team, maybe if I'm a silver guy, hey, if I'm on silver defense, now my role is I'm going to get as many reps as I can on scout team offense to get better. Maybe I'm a junior, so I know, hey, I'm going to work here. I'm going to get my reps on the silver scout team this year. I'm going to physically improve going into the off season, and then going into senior year, now I have a chance to be a contributor, right? It's just kind of one of those things where, helping you figure out where you stand, and then now what's my role on the team? How can I help make the team better?
As the course of doing these podcasts with you the last year and a half or so, you talked about, making it that you're not bigger than the team. So
Right.
there are roles that are for folks that are building their way up, and you
Mhm.
described it almost as like a journey. So you start as freshmen, and then you move on to sophomore and junior year. It's like maybe get some
Right.
experience and reps on the JV team. I was wondering if you could tell us again about that journey and where you expect and how the dominoes to fall out, ideally with 180 odd players in the program.
Right. Well, what I try to get these guys to understand, especially when they're freshmen, especially when they're sophomores, the journey to becoming a varsity starter is a 3 and 4 year process. It's not something that, you can't all of a sudden lock in senior year, all right, and start working hard, because we always do. And it always takes some guys time, but sometimes it's too late, right? These guys lock in senior year, put in all the work. But what have you done junior year, sophomore year, freshman year to really earn the trust of your coaches, your individual coaches, obviously my trust, right? And now you're in this really tough spot, and it's going to take longer than 4 days of camp to prove it. You know what I'm saying? Or 5 days of camp to prove it. Um, and if you're one of those guys that's really weighted, maybe now the goal isn't to start on the defense, but now maybe the goal is to start on the kickoff team, right? To start on the punt team. It's just, it looks a little bit different for everybody. So that's like when I'm talking to the freshmen, when I'm talking to the sophomores, and they're like, well, coach, I'm just a freshman. Yeah, but I don't want you wasting time. You're wasting time, you're wasting development and putting yourself on the right path to eventually have that opportunity, maybe as a junior, for sure, maybe as a senior. Um, so that's just what I'll tell guys. And, if I have goal guys, you know what, they're goal guys, they come out here, they work their butts off. They're doing a great job. They're doing everything I asked them to do. They're doing everything their position coach is asking them to do. Well, coach, how come I'm not getting mine? How come I'm not getting moved up? It takes time. That it just is what it is. It could be 3 days of camp. It could be, you may not, it could be the second day of practice, August 11th. It could be week 2, week 3. Maybe your opportunity doesn't come till week 5 or 6 when we're in the season. But you're going to have to show up every day and work hard till you get that opportunity. And that's just that's where we've been successful. We've had guys believe in that, and we've guys had follow that, and get when guys have gotten injured, or a blue guy hasn't been getting it done, or is less than reliable, we're able to move a gold guy up right into his place, and not miss a beat. So, they're kids. It's hard to understand that, but you're not going to get that immediate. Well, coach, I worked hard for a couple days. How come I'm not getting mine? How come I'm not getting up? Well, that's just not how things work, and we don't do these guys any favors in the school building with how we do grades now. These guys can take a test anytime. Oh, I'll retake that test. Don't worry. I got an F1. I'll retake that later. Oh, hey, I'll turn that assignment in anytime. I'll lock in, a couple weeks before the semester ends. That's just not how it works out here. You want to get a good grade, you want to start, it's an everyday commitment. This ain't the school classroom where you want a passing grade. Well, you can't just lock in the last week of the semester to get a passing grade. So, getting a few guys to understand that and keeping them locked in, and it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring up the aspect of time, because really, when you think about it, there's only a finite amount of time where the players are high school football players. They get 4 years. And, to maximize the opportunity in front of you. And again, this is not me pontificating, just remember from previous conversations like last fall. And you mentioned it, there could be situations where there perhaps is an injury, or maybe just the opponent that you're playing requires a different type of body in that position. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could happen, and to be locked in and engaged from the start of camp through the whole season is critical, right?
Yeah, what do they say? I mean, it's pretty famous. You don't know the time, the place, or the hour, but you better be ready. Okay, that involves in football too. So
Very true.
you
Very
never know
true.
when he's going to get called.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
about
mean,
that
you
one.
just never know, and it's
Right.
just you got to be ready, and you got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it sounds like we're very fortunate to have the numbers that we do, that you have that ability and you and your coaching staff can make those evaluations, make those decisions, and plug in
Yep.
people, where you think it would benefit the team the most. And we're talking about the varsity. Want to pivot over to the freshmen. And so, also in your weekly email, you're talking about how you and your coaching staff divided the team up into offense and defense. So, I was just wondering if you could
Right.
give us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I hinted at it a little bit earlier. It's a 4-year process really to kind of get to where you want to be. It's these freshmen come in. Some a little more hot headed than others. Some have played before, some haven't, right? And no matter how much you played, you still ain't ready to line up against a senior, right? It's always, well, I'm going to take. No, you're not, son. Just your time will come, but it ain't yet. So we really want to start that process out, and then when you have a large freshman group like we have, 50 plus guys, yeah, we've had a minimal amount of time to really evaluate them and see what we got. We used a week of camp. We used a lot of the summer. I watched them lift, how they run, maybe what they've played before in the past, their body type. And we split them up, last week for the first time. And, it's just important for them to know, look, we're just trying to make you a good football player, right? Don't focus so much on what position you are. The way I tried to explain it to them, if you're going to be my sixth best wide receiver, but I think I can make you my second best corner, well, I'm going to put you at corner because that's where I need you getting reps. And it's kind of one of those things you get to the linemen too. And, when it comes to freshman football, your offensive line has to be pretty solid. And that's where a lot of our better linemen will go, freshman year. And then, our defensive line, we've got a couple of guys I feel pretty good about there that are nails, but hey, we got a lot of projects there too. And we've had a lot of success of those guys taking steps forward. Right. And we talked about our D-line play. Fire off the football, get hands on, let the linebackers make plays. So, we get a group of guys that understand that. So, it's kind of one of those things. Just because you're on the offense freshman year doesn't mean we can't move you to the defense sophomore year or vice versa. Guys develop, guys grow. This freshman football position is more about getting you on the field, playing football, feeling the physicality, and then getting another year in the weight room. So, there's always guys that are happy. There's always the guys that are like a little confused, like, why has coach got me here? I've played here. The key thing is just trust the process, come out to practice, listen to your coaches, and it'll all take care of itself. And as a coach Brady Taylor and Coach Pash get working with the freshmen a little bit more, there's always that guy, 2 or 3 guys that they'll end up bouncing back to offense and defense, depending on how it goes. So, if any of the boys really have any, big, huge concerns, I would recommend them talking to their freshman coaches. But we've had some pretty good success, the last 4 or 5 seasons, really building solid freshman teams with the same formula. So, we'll see how it goes.
It's interesting that, again, with the seems like every year the freshman class gets bigger and bigger. And, you also referenced in your emails that the junior JAG program had almost 180 some odd
Yeah.
people as well. Do you see a day where maybe there's 2 different freshman team? Or do you still want to keep it maybe that it's, you do the platooning, and maybe that's something you could touch upon as well, because you break them, you got them into their position,
Right.
then, you do the platooning.
Yeah. I like keeping our classes together. I mean, you know, Brody Kuby played freshman football. Cole Rubel played freshman football. You know, think of guys that have all started going into sophomore year. They didn't play JV as freshmen. They played freshman football. And I think that's keeping the class together, having that class have success and coming together on a Monday night, really grinding it out at practice together all year. It's going to be way more important than having to rush a kid to JV or rush a kid to varsity. I mean, that's just kind of, what's made us who we are. Is guys have gotten that normal progression all the way up, and we haven't had to rush them. And I don't anticipate doing that with any of these freshmen either.
Well, we certainly look forward to watching the freshmen get out on the field on Monday nights. And but before folks move into the freshman ranks, a lot of them go through, as we mentioned before, the Junior Jag program. And Coach, you took some time out during the off season to record some of the drills, and I thought it was very fascinating. And it gives another, peek behind the curtain, with your
Right.
coaching style and going over, the pursuit, the tackling, the leverage. I just wanted to, get your thoughts on, what can maybe parents, show and talk about with their younger players to start them off and get them, going on the right foot.
Yeah, the whole idea, the whole plan, the goal was to just really put what we do out there. A lot like this podcast. There ain't a lot of secrets to getting it done on the football field, and we have specific drills that we run. So really, what I want to do is help educate or at least get some information out to our junior jag coaches. But it also great opportunity for the community to see and parents to see. Oh, hey, these are the drills that they're doing at practice. Uh, less is more. And, we don't have 15 tackling drills. We have about 4 or 5. We don't have 20 leverage drills. We got about 4, right? And these are the drills that we're running at practice that we're expecting players to execute. And, just a kind of a great opportunity for parents to kind of hear the same verbiage, that we use on the football field, and maybe they can start using it with their players. It's been really fun to go to Junior Jaguar practices in the evenings and see those coaches, implementing these drills as well. So, yeah, it was fun to do. And I notice I yell when I talk a lot, but I think that's just part of coaching, and you're trying to get 40, 50 people to hear you. But it's definitely something I want to continue to expand on, as we get into this off season with our position drills, position specific drills, and kind of really continue to kind of build that portfolio and help out our youth league coaches.
Well, Coach, we'll just say that you weren't mic'd up, and that was the reason why you had to,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of hollering going on.
Yeah. Well, like again, it's just again, folks know you, your staff, maybe from just sitting in the stands on a Friday, and to have you, break down that that curtain again, where you could see your style and what you guys work on, and it sounds like almost like a less is more, where it just gets repetitive and it just sinks in. They don't have to think; they're more like
Right.
reacting, to the drills that you provided there. So. We certainly look forward to more of these, upcoming, if it's this season or maybe next. And if you're looking for these drills, we have them on our Facebook page, and we also have them on our YouTube channel. So they're out there, and highly recommend folks check them out. It's very insightful. So, Coach, along with the drills, wanted to give you the floor to talk about any other additional off-season updates that you had on your mind or wanted to share with the Jaguar Nation.
Yeah, hey, there's a lot going on. We're 4 days away here from Dead Week, and I'll be out of country, so I ain't going to be very accessible. And so there's a lot of a few little paperwork things we got to do. When it comes to the physicals and privates, so make sure we got a plan for those. We just started our Raise 365 fundraiser, and I believe we're already up to $20,000 on that, Carl.
Excellent.
I know it's a little bit of work on the back end, but only 15 minutes of real work. So I really appreciate the parents sitting down with their players and making sure we get this out to the community and family, and appreciate the support that everybody's showing us, and we'll put all that to good use in supporting our boys. So it's about time. If I'm giving off-season updates, that there ain't much off-season left. We got
the
2 days
clock's
of camp.
yeah.
We go to Farmington, or we're gonna have a little contact camp, Thursday, and then we get back and we're in. So
And I have to
that portion of the program's shortening up pretty good.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, we didn't talk about this before, but you mentioned earlier this season that you were able to get like some electronic timers for the 40.
Yeah.
How curious, how close do between reality and the players? Because I know you were saying,
Right.
I just wanted to get a feel for how that's going. I was curious about that.
We timed at the end of the spring there. We didn't do a lot of timing this summer, but we timed at the end of our spring, and Well, we're living in a Imperial Valley Jeffcoat reality. Our boys are working hard, and we're never gonna blow anybody off a track, but we will blow you off the line of scrimmage, and that's really our style and how we got to win football games. We did make improvements though. It's fun to see, it was fun to see guys compete, and continue to work all throughout the spring, and then kind of see all that work pay off with their final times for sure.
Oh, very good, very good. Was thinking about that the other day, and wanted to get your thoughts. Something topical. I was just cruising around, the interwebs, so to speak, and there was an article in the Leader about Senate Bill 63, which then allows homeschooled students to, essentially participate in
Right.
sports in the district that they live in. Wanted to get your thoughts about that. I mean, is this something that you could think? Is it really good news for us at
Um,
Segment, or?
Yeah, we've had homeschool players in the past, and for their required classes, they'd always have my weightlifting class. If I would say if we had another homeschool student, it wouldn't change much because I would want them in my weightlifting class anyway, right? Obviously depending on what that parent and the reasons they're homeschooling their kids, I can understand that. With anything else, I'm sure there's a few nefarious loopholes, that some schools may try to use. Um, you know, it's led to a couple questions as far as, well, if a kid flunks out of one school but then moves somewhere else and he goes and homeschools there, is he automatically eligible, right? Or this, that, the other, or I've heard a few grumblings, but for us here at Sekman, I don't see much of a difference. If we do have more homeschool students, then that's a parent's choice. That's perfectly fine, but I would still expect to have them in my weightlifting class at some point. So
I appreciate you sharing that, because at least from what I was able to read and understand on it, just, opening up access. And there's always that opportunity where, things could get a little sideways, but
right,
yeah,
if it could be exploited, I'm sure somebody will. That's just the nature of of everything.
sure, sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. And it
Mhm.
sounds like, you have been very busy making your rounds on the social channels, not only with this podcast, but you sat down with one of your former players on a podcast. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh yeah, I did a little radio interview with Grant Salzman a couple weeks ago. He was a corner for me back in 2020. When we went 5-3, and he was a junior, my first year head coach, and really fun to get on the line with Grant and kind of chop it up, go back and forth, and really kind of tell the story of Seckman football from about 2019 to 2025, where we're at right now, and continue to kind of really spread the good word of all, all the good things that are happening around here. And, last week too, I did get to sit down with Ray, and I want to say Jeff from, was it STL Live?
Live stream STL, yes.
Live stream STL. They have a really neat studio over there by Case and Bucks, and really really cool production level. And sat down, talked 20-25 minutes with those guys about our football program, and that was a lot of fun. I think, compared to some other coaches, I have a little bit more experience with the podcast, thanks to you, Carl. We got done, and one of the guys said, "Well, you have a future in podcasting." I'm like, "Well, I don't know about that."
Well,
But it just me and you. I mean, we've gotten a lot more comfortable here doing this and talking about what we do. Just in over a year, how many episodes have we gotten in on this thing?
this is the 11th episode of just this season alone. And so
Hmm.
when you think about, we did one prior to each game, so that's like 10, 11. Gosh, we're well over
Yeah,
two
we're up
dozen.
25, 30 podcasts.
Yeah.
So, we're getting a lot more comfortable with our production. And so, but it was really fun to sit down with those guys. I'll make sure to share that link. I think they're going to kind of share it out as a whole suburban, large school um, kind of playlist at some point. So I'll make sure to share it out. It was a really fun interview. Um, and, always, hey, if you're driving 25 minutes to work, turn it on. What the hell else are you going to listen to?
Yeah. Well, they're great, friends of us. They host this podcast up on their channel as well. So great people, and no doubt they run a very very slick operation there. And I'm sure if you walk down the hallway into the studio, you saw the nice Jaguar jersey up there. So
Oh yeah.
we're well represented, and a coach. And if you're always looking for that career change, let me know, and I'll produce your podcast for you any day. So just let me know.
There was a few mornings last week when I was sweated all the way through my clothing, and that I was questioning that maybe a nice comfy podcast chair, but I might
Well,
get to that point eventually here in about 15 years, but until then.
yeah, we'll keep this going at least. And
Right.
really, I mean, just another way to connect with people,
Mhm.
through this podcast, through live stream STL, just other methods is just, something that I just really think we're ahead of the curve. Not to, pat ourselves on the back,
Right.
but I think we're ahead of the curve there, and providing additional information and behind the scenes, that parents and folks, just fans of the program, don't get to see. So, we're excited to have you, go on their show and spread the good word of Seckman football. So it's nothing but positives there. And so, Coach, I know we're coming up on time. You're very busy.
Mhm.
Wanted to give you the floor to take us out, as we're just a few days away from Dead Week, and then practices begin. Blue and gold on the horizon. Exciting stuff happening behind the scenes when you come to the blue and gold game. I think you're going to be blown away with what you see out on the field, number one, but out in the east end zone as well. Wanted to get your thoughts as we start to roll into Dead Week here.
Yeah, we touched on it earlier, and I mean, this is the last time you're going to be able to run that off-season thoughts slide. I mean, because it's not the off-season. We're in the thick of it. It's football season, and it was really fun. Last week, between 186 high school players, we're up to about 191 second grade through eighth grade players. I mean, there's over 375 kids in our community, our Seckman community, that are playing football. I mean, that's just wild. When you put that number out there, and last week, getting out on the field with the varsity, I think about all the legwork, all the, all the paperwork, obviously, but all the mental side of it, and the culture side of it, and the standard side of it, and to see our guys go out and really take that, and from the weight room and carry it over to the field, that's just fun to see, vision, kind of that vision, that we have realized, to be out at the junior Jaguar fields, 190 players, 30 or so junior league coaches out there, working and having fun. Everybody's smiling, everybody's having a great time. And really, kind of when we took over, um, the reins of our junior program, that was the vision unleashed, and it was fun to kind of see that out there those 3 days. I mean, I appreciate all the work that the coaches, the team moms are putting into their grade level teams, and kind of really taking our philosophies, taking our schemes, and running with it. And it's just really fun to see, when stuff like that comes together. And someone kind of did make the comment, well, we'll see, when the proof is in the pudding or whatever like that. And I'm not mad that anybody would say that, but we talked about it here on the before too. I don't really measure the success of what we're doing with wins and losses. I mean, obviously we know that is going to be how it's done on the outside, and winning sure is fun. But, when I think of all the work that led to, getting the junior league to where we were this past week, getting all the high school boys out there grinding, up until last week, surely, yeah, we would want to get all that. We would want all that paid off with wins and things like that. But ultimately, me seeing it all working in progress, that's how I'm measuring our success. And really, this first week camp, second grade through 12th grade, huge success. So, hopefully we keep it rolling here this week. Everybody enjoys our dead week. I'm going to, and then, back on August 11th, let it ride.
Well said, Coach. I mean, just looking out at the all the junior Jags practicing, you cut through like the weeds, so to speak, the little cut through, and you just
Mm-hmm.
see a mass of blue helmets and people just having a good time. It was
Mm-hmm.
really really cool to see. And so, Coach, want to wish you and your staff and the players a great dead week. if that sounds kind of counterintuitive, because it
Right.
just, it's been a grind. You've been lifting, you've been working. And so, go out and, enjoy this time off because, the practices start to really come here quick. And before you know it, we all gather middle of August for the blue and gold game. So we're certainly looking forward to that.
Yep. Appreciate it,
All
Carl.
right. Thanks, Coach. And we will catch you on the next one.
All right.
All right.